Hello, everyone. My name is Klarich, Chief Product Officer at Palo Alto Networks, and I'm very pleased today to be joined by Stephanie Balaouras, Vice President and Research Director for Security and Risk at Forrester Research. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
When you think about the opportunity in public cloud from a security perspective, it seems like there's a very real opportunity to not just carry forth the same approaches that have been applied on-premise for the last 10, 20, 30 years, but rather rethink from the ground up, for example, like build automation from day one. Just make it a foundational requirement, as opposed to, like, everyone would love to do automation on-premise, but it's hard when you didn't design for it, right? What are some of the things you're seeing from customers, companies, as they think about, that sort of new approach that is, for the cloud, like from the ground up, optimize, et cetera?
I think cloud, to a large extent, it is a greenfield opportunity. I mean, also some companies are already well on their way in their cloud journey, but for a lot of companies, it is a new opportunity. So I see a lot of security teams trying to avoid some of the mistakes of the past, a lot of the decentralized decision-making that was made, or the sort of expense and depth approach that they took on-prem. They don't want to repeat that in the cloud. So there's a couple of things I see happening. And I should also say, too, what's happening on-prem is IT complexity is really undermining security. If in our security survey that Forrester runs every year, we ask decision makers and influencers, what is your top challenge? And number one is actually IT complexity. And the changing threat landscape actually is far below that. It is number two, but number one by a long shot is IT complexity. And you think about on-prem, it's the complexity of what the company has deployed over the years. And it's also what the security team has deployed over the years in terms of complexity. So what I see in the cloud is a few things. One, they're taking a much sharper view on the number of vendors that they work with. So they don't want to just pick every best-of-breed product that they could possibly invest in. They're really thinking about a smaller number of strategic vendors. And then even within those vendors, again, like they're trying to reduce the number of point products that they deploy. So they're not thinking of every domain of security as being its own isolated capability. Identity and access isn't separate from data protection, isn't separate from secure networking, it isn't separate from application development and application security. It's not separate from automation or visibility and analytics as well. Right. We're sort of thinking about all those pieces as a whole. And so there actually is a preference now that I see when I talk to customers, as well as I see in our data, where the preference for buying best of breed isn't as strong as it used to be. There is almost a majority now that actually do want to invest in a portfolio vendor. Mm-hmm. So again, because you're reducing that complexity, you're buying fewer standalone products that aren't tightly integrated in a whole. And the products that you are evaluating, you're thinking of them in the totality of everything that you need to deliver in the cloud from the get-go.
Right, that makes sense. Now, shifting gears a little bit, so we're talking about public cloud, but probably one of the first, large-scale sort of cloud adoption trends was really SaaS.
Yeah.
SaaSification of business applications, sometimes of consumer applications. There is consumerization of IT, shadow IT, et cetera. But SaaS has really been growing, adopting and growing for the last many, many, many years. What are some of the things you're seeing there from a trends perspective with companies around the world that you talk to?
I would caution people if they really think that they've got a handle on shadow IT. You still really need to inventory and know about every SaaS application in there. You need to understand within those SaaS applications what users are doing, what level of access they have. They're very granular entitlements within those applications. The data as well. The data is critical. Being able to inventory and classify the data so that you can deploy the right level of protection is critical. Whether it needs to be encrypted or making sure that you're not violating compliance, particularly anything related to global privacy law. Data residency is very, very important in SaaS applications. So, yeah, I would say all that. The secure access, the entitlements that users have, the protection of the data, as well as data compliance and protection as it relates to global privacy law.
Yeah, I kind of, with SaaS, I kind of think of it as like they've made it so easy in a lot of ways.
Right.
And what comes with that then is just a lot of accidental misuse or misconfiguration or missharing of information, just because it's so easy. You don't even realize that you just upload a confidential document that's now being shared with everybody because you put it in the wrong folder.
Exactly. And the interesting thing about SaaS providers, I think a lot of people take for granted the level of security as well as the level of resiliency that the SaaS provider is actually delivering. A good example is they're not providing field level recovery. So if you have a malicious insider purposely delete data or corrupt data, the SaaS provider provides overall availability of that application. They're not going to help you granularly recover data from field.
Right.
So again, that's why you still need visibility into what every user is doing, and at a forensic level.
Yes. So that's a good sort of landscape view across the application side.
Yeah.
What about the access side? So as more and more applications are either deployed and configured into the public cloud infrastructure, are consumed as SaaS, how does that change access, where users are no longer trying to connect into a data center, but rather they're trying to connect to an application that might be running anywhere in the world? What are the factors that enterprises need to take into account when they approach that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing when it comes to user access, I usually tell enterprises, you've got to be able to deliver secure access for any population, actually. So think about your own employees, think about contractors and partners, even think about if you're a B2C company, like your own consumers. So think about any user population, think about any device access method, because users are going to use the device that they want to use to do their jobs. And they should be able to do that. There's a lot of research that Forrester has done that said that companies that provide a really solid foundation for employee experience that can encourage engaged employees, those employees work harder, they serve customers better, and those companies in the long run grow more quickly and are more profitable than other companies. So employee experience is critical. So you want to encourage them to responsibly do whatever it takes to serve customers. The other thing I'll say is you also have to be able to deliver that access regardless of location. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what location, where the employee works. It could be a branch, it could be headquarters, it could be from home, any other location. Again, their focus is on serving customers, not anything else, ideally. And then regardless of hosting model.
Last question. When companies get this right, what are the business benefits that they start to achieve?
Yeah, I think the business benefits, again, we think about that company that's really undergoing a digital transformation. And digital transformation, think of it simply, because it's become such a buzzword, as the ability of the company to address the gap between what they can deliver today and customers' expectations of them. So whatever it takes, new engagement models, new partnership models, global expansion, M&A, whatever the company's doing to sort of meet that gap, that's digital transformation. And the cloud's a corner piece of that, because with the cloud, you can get scale, you can get dramatic flexibility, you can get adaptability, you can do rapid development, so you can be much more innovative. So that's what it's bringing to the company, is that digital transformation. I think for the security team, if you're that security team that really takes that holistic approach and helps the company accelerate that strategy, you're now the dream, the security team that's actually considered a business partner, not just a cost center that's trying to reduce risk. So, and then also I think for the security team itself, there's that knowledge that you are taking that holistic approach. You do feel good that the security posture of the company is in a good place. I think there's an opportunity too, like we were talking about, for the security team to reduce complexity and to reduce their costs, because you're not buying point products, you're automating things, So there's both business, financial, as well as operating benefits.
Yeah, love it. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. This is really insightful, interesting, and in support of all the things that we're doing in the cloud as well, and aligned with our thinking. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.